So we have kite, K-I-T-E. Let's see. They drew one of the diagonals for us. We could draw the other diagonal in there, the diagonal of symmetry, but let's wait and see if we need to. All right. What information do we know about this triangle? We need to find IE. So what do we know about this triangle? Oh my goodness, we know two really important things. We know that it has a right angle. By the way, side note, did you know when a kite has a right angle, it's called a right kite? Isn't that fun? Say it, it's fun. It's a right kite. Okay, anyways. All right, so that's a right angle, and a property of a kite is consecutive sides are congruent, well, two pairs of them. Therefore, we have a isosceles triangle. We have a right isosceles triangle. 45, 45, 90. We know the rule is x root 2. So everyone should have gotten IE 10 root 2. What did you guys do next? Did you guys draw the other diagonal in, or did you solve it as is? I'm curious. Very good observation. Very good. Okay, this was sneaky, and you didn't have to solve it this way. I'll show you the other way. This is 60. That is very important because these sides are congruent. Consecutive sides are congruent in a kite. Well, two pairs of them. Well, wait a minute. If a triangle has 180 degrees, and we've already used up 60, we have 120 degrees left. Well, this is an isosceles triangle. So if we have 120 degrees left, 120 divided by 2, oh my goodness, it's not just an isosceles triangle. It is an equilateral triangle. 60, 60, 60. Whoa, mind blown. So anyways, we don't have to do any math at all. Look at that. IT is automatically 10 root 2. Okay, you want to do it the other way that I didn't notice that it was an equilateral triangle way? Okay. Pretend you didn't notice that. Not a big deal. You might have been stuck, so you might have drawn the other diagonal in. If you drew the other diagonal in, you created a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Let me redraw it. You drew the diagonal of symmetry. You cut 60 in half, so you get 30, 60, 90. This was 10 root 2. So that means right here, this has been bisected. It's 5 root 2. And then you could use x root 3, 2x. X root 3, 2x. So 2 times 5 root 2 would have ended up at 10 root 2 once again. So two different ways to solve that one. Let's go over it really quick. WXYZ is a parallelogram, so we know in a parallelogram that opposite sides are parallel. So we know that since these are parallel, we can use good old, what are these called? Alternate interior angle theorem. We can use those angles, we can set them equal. This was a distractor. You don't use that one to solve for x. So what did y'all get for x? Solve for x first. Let's see. Oh, 2x goes over here. X is 4. Then it wanted to know the measure of YZ, so you had to use another property. Opposite sides are congruent. So 32 plus 4, opposite sides are congruent. So there we go. 36 was the answer. Okay, we have a trapezoid. Not just a trapezoid, we have an isosceles trapezoid. Now, we learned in class that the leg angles are supplementary. I know you have a lot of properties to memorize. Let's pretend you forgot that property. There's so many to memorize. Instead, I would just focus on, okay, we've got parallel lines cut by a transversal. These are same side interior angles. That starts with an S, so they're supplementary. You add them to equal 180. 6x plus 4x is 10x. 20 plus nothing is 20. So 10x plus 20 equals 180. 10x equals 160. X is 16. Now it was asking for angle y. We know in an isosceles trapezoid, 3 things are congruent. Legs are congruent. Base angles are congruent. diagonals are congruent. That's all you have to remember for isosceles trapezoid. Congruent, congruent, congruent. So therefore, if I plug this in, 6 times 16 plus 20, 116, we know that this is 116 because this one matches this one, and this one would match this one had we needed to find that one. All right? All right, SU is 72. I'm going to go ahead and bisect that. I know in a kite, one of the diagonals bisects the other. All right? So 72, I'm going to go ahead and bisect it. That way I can write those two segments on my picture. ST is 60, and we want to know VT. You know in a kite and in a rhombus, honestly, in a rectangle too, you do a lot of Pythagorean theorem. Because in a kite and a rhombus, the diagonals are perpendicular. So Pythagorean theorem, 60 squared minus 36 squared. What do we get? 2,304. The square root is a beautiful Pythagorean triple, 48. All righty. All right, let's look at this one really quickly. AEB is 2x plus 18. Guys, this is a rhombus. So I would stop right there and I would solve for x. 2x plus 18 equals 90. You have to know that in a rhombus and a kite, the diagonals are perpendicular. So 2x plus 18 equals 90. X equals 36. Okay, now we can keep going. BAD is x over 2, and we're trying to find angle ABC. We know that these two angles are going to add up to 90. Let's see. 36 divided by 2 is, of course, 18. So this angle is 18. We know that these two angles add up to 90 because that's how it works in a right triangle. So that's where the 72 came from. Is everyone okay with that? To be fair, this was a system of equations, and we might not have done that at all this year. I can't remember if we've done it once or twice. You learned this in algebra. So we know that in a parallelogram, diagonals bisect each other. So you know that x plus 2y equals 10, and you know that 5x minus 2y equals 26. Now, if you couldn't do the algebra, that's one thing. But if you didn't set it up this way, then you didn't know your parallelogram property. Now, let's do the algebra. It's super duper duper easy. This is a system of equations, so we add them together, and look what's going to happen. The y's are going to cancel. X plus 5x is 6x. 10 plus 26 is 36. X is 6. Yep, then you had to take one more step, and you had to plug the 6 in. I would plug it in here. So 6 plus 2y equals 10. 2y equals 4. Y equals 2. WU is 1/2 x plus 9. And VT is 37. This is one of those classic ones. You're given the half and you're given the whole. So you can either double the half or you can half the whole. I don't like working with fractions, do you? So I would take this one that's a half of a diagonal and I would double it. So if I double this, that will cancel, so I'll have x plus 18. And that equals 37. And the reason we're allowed to set those equal is because in a rectangle, the diagonals are congruent. Remember, if your shape has good posture, rectangle and square, your diagonals are congruent. If your shape is slouching, parallelogram and rhombus, your diagonals are not congruent. Okay, I'm not going to solve that. Find the measure of angle STU. So we need to find this whole angle right here. We have a few properties up our sleeve that we can use to find that angle. First of all, we know in a kite and a rhombus, diagonals are perpendicular. Yes, they are. So we can use this triangle right here, this handy-dandy right triangle, and we can find the missing angle, 25. Then we know in a kite, one of the diagonals is the diagonal of symmetry, and that one cuts the angles in half and cuts the diagonal in half. So it is a mirror image. 25 looks in the mirror and sees 25 for a total of 50 for the recorded lesson. Okay, angle RST is 110. And the worst thing that you could do is divide that by 2. We know angle S does not get bisected. Angle R does and angle T does. We want to know angle SRT. So we're looking for this one right here. One thing that we can do, there's a lot of different things we could do. I think the fastest way to get there is probably to look at this triangle. And this triangle, if that angle is 65, 90 minus 65 is 25. And then mirror image 25. And then I would just look at this triangle right here. Always be looking for new triangles. We know that the angles of a triangle add up to 180. So if we do 110 plus 25 and subtract it from 180, that's one of the ways we could have found that the answer was 45.